Delta Airlines has agreed to settle a class action lawsuit for $78.5 million after one of its flights dumped 15,000 gallons of jet fuel over an estimated 38,000 properties in Los Angeles back in January 2020. The Boeing 777 was flying to Shanghai when the airline says the plane experienced a mechanical issue shortly after takeoff and needed to make an emergency return to LAX. Delta, as part of the settlement, denies any wrongdoing and also says the FAA cleared the pilots of any wrongdoing. More than 350,000 Israelis protested yesterday, demanding the government finalize a ceasefire deal and free the remaining Hamas-held hostages in Gaza. It also comes as criticism mounts after the IDF deadly attack this week at a hospital in Gaza City.
Israel faces global condemnation after a double-tap strike on one of the largest hospitals in Gaza. It killed at least 20 people, including 5 journalists. Prime Minister Netanyahu initially called it a tragic mishap, but the IDF now says the attack targeted a camera they claim was positioned by Hamas observing IDF troops. But they've given no explanation as to why they fired a second time, once more journalists and rescue workers had responded to the scene.
ABC's James Longman. One of the top grocery store chains in the country, Kroger, announced it's planning to lay off more employees. The company says about 1,000 workers in corporate offices will be let go. Kroger vowing the layoffs won't impact stores or employees, along with workers at distribution sites. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
He's coming. Here he goes. Surprise! Your table saw broke. Also, the warranty expired weeks ago, so you need to pay for a new one out of pocket.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Oh, and the replacement part you ordered doesn't fit, so it's completely useless. What a waste.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 now, and with your KVNU News headlines, I'm Will Feelright. Hundreds of people at Bear River High School this afternoon as the public viewings have gotten underway for Sergeant Lee Sorensen and Officer Eric Estrada, who were killed in the line of duty earlier this month. Now, the public viewings will continue until 7 o'clock tonight. Officer Estrada's funeral is scheduled to take place tomorrow at 10, with Sergeant Sorensen's funeral planned for Friday at 10. Now, both services will be taking place in the D. Glenn Smith Spectrum on campus at Utah State. Officials are asking those who plan to attend to expect traffic delays. Now, the services will be broadcast live here on KVNU 610 AM, 102.1 FM, along with KVNUtalk.com and the KVNU mobile app. Meanwhile, the Cache County Council voting to publish a truth in taxation notice for a proposed property tax increase of up to 18% for 2026. Now, the move allows the county now to seek public input on the potential tax hike, which is being considered to address a budget shortfall. Now, the council voted 6-1 last night to approve the notice, though members expressed hope that the final tax increase would be much lower. Now, an 18% tax increase would translate to about a $60 annual increase on an average Cache County home with a taxable value of around $290,000. Now, the initial budget shortfall was estimated to be nearly $7.9 million, but county officials said they have since found a $3 million windfall in a restricted capital fund, which reduced the deficit to $4.9 million. Now, County Executive David Zook's Chief Deputy Dirk Anderson has promised a combination of reductions in spending and also a hiring freeze to try to help close the remaining gap. Well, a judge's order to redraw Utah's congressional map has pushed the state now into a national redistricting battle ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Now, the new boundaries could make up one of Utah's 4 congressional seats and make it more competitive for Democrats who need to net just 3 seats nationally to take control of the U.S. House. Now, 3rd District Court Judge Diana Gibson earlier this week had ruled that the state's Republican-controlled legislature had unlawfully circumvented an independent redistricting commission established by the voters. Now, she ordered lawmakers to adopt a new map that complies with the voter-approved standards by September 24th. And fire crews say they were able to contain a large fire yesterday afternoon that ignited in a rail yard, sending black smoke rising above Interstate 15 in Ogden. The fire department says they responded to the rail yard that was just north of 31st Street in the overpass yesterday afternoon. Officials said crews found the fire burning in construction pipe and were able to suppress the flames in just over an hour. Now, the cause of that fire remains under investigation. Well, weather-wise, had about another third of an inch of rain come down earlier today with some heavy showers this morning, but then kind of started to taper off. Now, we do still have a chance of some scattered showers later this afternoon into tonight, as temperatures have been in the low 70s today. Tonight will drop into the mid-50s, then be back tomorrow into the mid to high 70s with a mix of clouds and some sunshine. And it's Logan Extermination that brings you our weather on the 6s. They'll help green up your lawn and take care of the bugs around your home and keep them from getting inside. It's Logan Extermination. Call them today at 752-8450. And you can always get more news at kvnutalk.com. Also, the KVNU mobile app available at the Google Play Store and Apple App Store. And I'm Will Feelright with your news headlines this hour.
Hey there, quick question. Wouldn't it be nice if your home stayed cool in the summer and warm in the winter without your HVAC working overtime? With Cardinal Spray Foam insulation, it can. They use an insulation that seals the gaps you didn't know you had, keeping air in, comfort up, and energy bills down. I guarantee you'll feel the difference. Plus, you could qualify for a $1,200 tax credit. Call 755-5012 or look them up online. Cardinal's Insulation, 755-5012.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
It's here, the Discount Tire and Automotive 49th Anniversary Sale. Buy any 4 tires. You heard right, any 4 tires and get a free 4-wheel alignment. That's a $129.99 value. Yours completely free. That's right, a free alignment just for buying tires. No strings, no catch, plus save big on top tire brands or choose our quality budget options. At Discount Tire and Automotive, you'll always get the guaranteed lowest price, in-store or online. And right now, that includes a free alignment with any 4-tire purchase. Need flexible payments? Take 12-month no interest, no credit check financing, or layaway. You won't find a better deal online or in store. Guaranteed. Celebrate 49 years of savings at Discount Tire and Automotive. Book now at webtires.net or stop by and claim your free alignment today with 3 convenient locations in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield.
Discount Tire. So much more than a tire store.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Wednesday, August 27th. I'm Jason Williams. 70 degrees right now. Radio Ranch, 4:11 in the afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. It's going to stay this way. A few more chances of showers, even thunderstorms tonight and into tomorrow. Around tomorrow afternoon, it's going to break up and we'll be creeping, as Will said, closer to 80 at least. And then, by Friday, we're back to the heat. 80-degree high projected. The forecast looking at 80s, high 80s, almost 90 on Labor Day. It's going to be a nice summer-like weekend, but man, this has been a nice break the last couple of days. I don't know if you were out and about earlier today. The downpour that hit Cache Valley, just absolutely wild. It was probably 10, 15 minutes is all. Seemed to start at the south end of the valley and slowly creep north through the valley. But, man, what a downpour. And really pleasant to have the temperatures cool down along with that. And then, of course, get some much-needed moisture and quite a bit of it. But for some of our neighbors here in northern Utah, this was a pretty unpleasant experience. In fact, parts of Box Elder County and Weber County are still on a flood watch up until about 5 o'clock today. I saw some images out of far west in Plain City. One road with, because of the way the road was shaped and it being sort of the cul-de-sac of a bunch of what became rivers during this downpour as it crept north through the state, waist-deep water in one area of construction and an uncompleted road in that subdivision that was a bit downhill from everything else. Absolutely wild stuff. And all of this hitting just, suddenly. So in downtown Ogden today, an intersection flooded entirely. In fact, they were at a certain point, they finally put cones up to keep the vehicles out because they were worried about a vehicle stalling, as drivers were told first to use caution, and then soon started seeing a couple of road closed signs due to flooding in Ogden. It was just so much precipitation in such a short period of time in this morning rainstorm. So Utah Department of Transportation cameras showed, I got some screenshots I posted to our Facebook page, but they show Washington Boulevard and 2nd Street, the entire intersection flooded there in Ogden, about a foot of water. And despite warnings, drivers still attempted to make it through the flooded intersection, and that's why they ended up closing the roads for a significant amount of time, actually. I just wanted to touch on this a little bit. Don't do this. A long time ago, there was a bit of a viral trend, or not trend, there was a viral video that went around on Twitter, Facebook, I saw it on Instagram, I think, too, of these the two women in a car driving through a tunnel that was flooded, and the water's lapping up over the hood of the car, and they make it. But the video went viral because it was such just a weird thing to see. But people pointed out quickly afterwards, so it was shared online as kind of like, haha, look at this, can you believe they were brave enough to drive through this to get out of town? Don't. This is a very bad idea. This is courtesy of the Utah Department of Public Safety in light of this flooding today. You might not think, even a few inches of rain on the road would be that big of a deal. But, of course, we all know about hydroplaning, right? You can't always see where there are deeper spots in that water. So even just a bit of rain on the road can actually cause you to lose control of your vehicle, enter a spin, strike another vehicle or a pedestrian, flip your car. Even at speeds as low as 35, 40 miles an hour, that has happened. So that's one reason to be careful when there's that much moisture coming down at once, and definitely lower your speeds and pay more attention to the roadways. But when you get up to some of these images we saw out of Ogden, and again, waist-deep water in some intersections of a subdivision in far west, your car isn't set up for that, most cars. Now, there are some with some aftermarket modifications that can handle much more than a foot of water, much more than 3 feet of water. Your car is most likely not set up that way. 12 inches of moving water, first off, can actually float your car. What happens is the clearance of your car. So the average pickup truck has a 12-inch clearance on the rear differential. That's how they check that. That's average. That means you can go through 12 inches of water and it's not touching anything important. The average passenger car does not have that much clearance. Some SUVs do, some midsize SUVs, but not all. And that's all it takes to float a vehicle. And by float, that means, you might not be twisting sideways and moving with the whims of the stream, but it floats enough that your tires are no longer in enough contact with the roadway for you to have control, to stop, to turn, anything. So that's one of the biggest reasons. But the real reason for this, and this came up in Ogden today, is hidden hazards. So in one of the areas where this flooding happened, the flooding was so intense it had actually dislodged a cover in the roadway. And that cover was sticking up because it had spun sideways because of the weight of the water sitting on it. But you couldn't see that because of the depth of the water. This was a small 18-inch cover. And so half of it, 9 inches, is sticking up in the road. Well, one of the vehicles in Ogden that went through this, what they thought was just a big puddle at a high rate of speed, about 30, too high for the water. They went through about 30 miles an hour, struck that upturned, sitting perfectly vertical drain cover, and it tore the oil pan and part of the transmission out of the bottom of that car. The car was then, of course, stuck in the water. The driver and the passenger couldn't get out or didn't want to get out and filled the car with water itself. They had to be towed out of the water, and after that, they ended up closing the entire road until that water had drained down. So these are the things that, just a handful of things you should consider. Water can short out enough, splashed up into the engine compartment, can short out electrical components temporarily, cause permanent damage to alternators and even starters. It can damage the car's computer, which I don't know if you've ever talked to a mechanic about what that costs to fix. Oftentimes, it's almost worth buying a new car. And then it always, water, even a minor rainstorm with water splashing up, affects your brake system, causing you to take longer to brake and more. So there are a lot of reasons not to do this. There were quite a few cars moving through this in some of the video you saw. And again, UDOT flagged some of this, let Ogden officials know, and they were able to quickly close that road until the floodwaters subsided just a little bit. But this came up in a matter of minutes. And, you can't expect the city to have planned for that. This is on us as drivers. If you see this much water coming down and you're starting to see it pool at certain intersections, I don't know if it's still the case. I didn't notice today. I wasn't in the area. But the intersection of 4th North and Main Street on the east side, where the Chevron gas station used to be an area where that entire right-hand turn lane would be 6 inches of water in just a normal rainstorm. This was a lot more than normal. So, yeah, just be careful. Utah Department of Public Safety says if you find yourself in a situation, a flash flood situation like this, which are far more common in southern Utah when rains will hit and hit hard, and those flash floods turn into rivers where it was just dry desert land before. That's normally what we think of with flash flood, but flash floods do affect roadways, and roadways, because of their design, oftentimes, especially if a nearby drain or culvert happens to be clogged up with leaves or sticks or something like that, they become lakes pretty fast, and traffic keeps flowing, and people keep driving, and you just have to pause and think about how even just a few inches of water pooled on the roadway can totally change your tires, your car, you as a driver and your control of the vehicle, and your interaction with that roadway change definitely. Utah Department of Public Safety says if you do find yourself in a situation where your vehicle is stalled, you've hit a piece of debris, and your oil pan's now empty, whatever it might be, your transmission was torn out by a drain cover like happened to this driver in Ogden today. If you're in this situation, you're no longer mobile, they have a couple of tips for you, and the first tip is, this is ironic because you shouldn't drive into the water in the first place, but don't try to turn around. Keep moving forward until you can't anymore. If you can't move forward anymore, your best bet at that point is to actually stay in the vehicle. If it becomes unsafe to stay in the vehicle at any point, get out of the vehicle and on top of the vehicle if you can. But they really recommend you don't jump from the vehicle and stand in the road if you can avoid it at any cost. Now, obviously, if you drive yourself into a river and your car's floating down and filling with water, that car's eventually going to sink. You're going to want to get out, get on top, and if you can, make your way to something more ground-like, the bank. And you don't have a lot of options in that situation. But on the roadways, if you find yourself in a stalled vehicle, stay in the vehicle with your flashers on. If you can't stay in the vehicle, get out and get on top of the vehicle with your flashers on. That car is much more noticeable than you are, especially if rain's coming down this hard. If you want to see some scary images as well, they sent along some video out of Houston, a recent flash flood in Houston. Utah Department of Public Safety shared this with me today. A video simply titled, "Why You Don't Drive in High Roadway Water." And it's an image of a car hitting a puddle on the side of the roadway, losing control and entering into a spin, going through a guardrail and nose first into a nearby river. And that vehicle disappears. They were going so fast, had such a rate of speed, that car was just a dive. It was just a dive, professional diver as it hit that water. All the way underwater. You don't see the car come back up for quite a bit, and the driver and the passenger in that car had to be rescued by a crew that first had to grappling hook the vehicle to the side of the river and then break the windows to get them out, all because they saw a puddle and didn't slow down or swerve. So, yeah, check it out. I've also posted a link to our Facebook page more directly related to urban streets. Consumer Reports actually has, based on insurance data from 2025 going back to 1975, they have a long list of insurance claim data as a warning to why even just what looks like a small puddle on the road should be cause for you to slow down a little bit and think about what you're about to drive through, or I guess more relevant, what you don't know you're about to drive through. So check it out. I've posted a link to our Facebook page. If you want to see some of the video from the UDOT cameras today in Ogden and the waist-deep water in the streets in Far West during this flash flood this morning throughout northern Utah, I've posted a link to that as well on our Facebook page. And, yeah, it is wild. And again, all of this hitting and dumping a lot of water throughout northern Utah as it slowly crept north for, 10, 15, 20 minutes is all. But it was enough to cause havoc in many cities along the Wasatch Front, and quite a few roadways turned into little mini rivers here in Cache Valley for a few minutes. Check it out. I've posted links to all of this video, photos, and more on our Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
Hey folks, Jay here with Daryl's Appliance. Our huge Labor Day sales event is on. Grab up to $850 and exclusive rebates on GE, Maytag, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, and more, plus $150 back on select Speed Queen laundry pairs. Save even more with up to 40% off select models and double the savings with delivery and installation rebates. Now's the time to upgrade. Visit us today and save big. But this sale ends September 10th, only at Daryl's West on Airport Road, open until 6 p.m. on weekdays, 5 on Saturday.
Get your furnace fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your AC fixed, call Gary Riggs.
How long has it been since you've had your HVAC tuned up? This is Gary Riggs with a BOGO deal. Get your furnace tuned up for free with an air conditioning tune-up. You'll get a certified technician to do your annual cleaning, calibration, and standard filter change. Everything required to keep your HVAC system running safe and efficient. Let's BOGO the heck out of this and be ready for winter with this limited time deal.
Get your furnace fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your AC fixed, call Gary Riggs.
A new era has begun in Logan, Utah.
My team is tough. They're resilient. They've embraced the expectations. And again, the cultural part to me is first.
Head coach Bronco Mendenhall and the Aggies look to make some noise in the Mountain West.
Touchdown, Utah State!
Join us Saturday. The Aggies host UTEP to open the season.
Pre-game begins at 3:30. Kickoff is at 5:30. And post-game and Aggie call immediately follows the game. Utah State football is back on News Talk KVNU, the home of the Aggies.
Coming up on the show, we'll be talking about the Form of Government Committee, members of the committee with an update on a meeting they have planned. This has nothing to do with, as you heard during the news break there, the council voting yesterday to move forward with plans for a truth and taxation meeting over a proposed property tax hike of 18%, which may or may not be the final amount in the end, but that's a ways off still. This is just a sort of a technical move they have to make to start the process of requesting the public support for and being truthful with the public. This is the purpose of the meeting about the property tax hike proposal. That's different from this. This is an ongoing thing that the county started a bit ago. Former Representative Jack Draxler, for example, is a committee member. Political science professor at USU and former mayor of North Logan, Damon Cann, is also involved with the committee. We talked a couple of weeks ago about a presentation he gave to the committee and the county council on the cost, just the salary costs of different forms of county government. So we'll have an update on that coming up later on in the show, because they do have a big meeting planned, and they're hoping to get the public more engaged in this as kind of an educational effort. So we'll talk about that coming up later on. Utah State University, I don't know how much to hammer them over this because the two bits of bad news, financial news involving taxpayer money out of Utah State University involve two people. One person who's now no longer with the university, former president of the university, Elizabeth Betsy Cantwell, and a man whose name I forget, who was overseeing a nonprofit that USU, with the help of U, were kind of hosting called Impact, that was meant to grant statewide taxpayer money through a state program to projects that would boost manufacturing jobs in northern Utah and the whole state if possible, but specifically northern Utah. That person allegedly, based on an audit we talked to Auditor Tina Cannon about, was misusing funds, about $3 million of them, and that's taxpayer money, and including purchasing vacations, investing in his own business, allegedly, and also giving himself big bonuses each year. That was a bit of bad news. Utah State University, though, didn't call all the shots on that. This person was tasked with leading this nonprofit credibly and just didn't. But the university took some hits in the state auditor's audit. Tina Cannon told us here on air that the university should have played a more active role in oversight. Then that got a lot of attention, obviously, and there was a deeper dive with legislative auditors looking into the spending out of the president's office and the executive portion of Utah State University's management. And they highlighted in their audit lavish purchases during what was a very short period of time as president for Elizabeth Cantwell, including that now infamous $750 bidet in the president's office suite there on campus, and a $28,000 climate-controlled golf cart for scooting around campus. And then also in the legislative audit, they, like the state auditor's audit, they dinged the university for a general lack of oversight and procedural accountability on all of this. That raises some questions, and understandably, the legislature has decided more needs to be done, so they poked and prodded the Utah System of Higher Education Board, and USHE announced today that now the Utah System of Higher Education, that board oversees all 8 of the state's, straight up public institutions. And they will lead the reviews that were announced today. And this is the first, this is going to be a gigantic audit. This is the first big audit in more than a decade, as far as I could find. I asked former state auditor John Dougal to help me on that as well, and he agreed that he couldn't confirm, but he said it's been at least a decade, probably more, since there was an audit of this scope. Jeff Landward, the commissioner of the Utah System of Higher Education, told state lawmakers last week in the interim session that happened on Wednesday of last week that they would like to do an audit to see if there's, quote, a gap in statewide policy for what the executive side, the president of a university, for example, and that person's staff can purchase, and for how much, and how the oversight on all that should work. Currently, most of that is left to each school, and so the question here is, we'll do an audit. Are there problems? Do we see problems? Do we see lack of oversight, lack of accountability, lack of transparency? And if so, does the legislature at that point need to step in and make this kind of a statewide rule for how universities handle executive spending? So this isn't an audit of the entire budget of all 8 universities. It's an audit of roughly the president's office at all 8 universities. And this audit will also run concurrently with an already launched full audit approved by state lawmakers themselves, specifically of Utah State University. And staff at the Utah Office of Legislative Counsel did that initial assessment we talked about last week on executive spending and found a lack of oversight and procedural compliance. So that triggered this deeper dive that will run concurrently with the audit announced today by the Utah System of Higher Ed for all 8 universities. So this is probably good. This is definitely not the way you want this stuff to happen. I wish, whether it's a city or Cache County or the state or the federal government, I wish there was just an attitude of let's audit as often as we can. And they're expensive, so as often as we can afford to has to be factored in as well. But audit constantly. It saves money, it streamlines processes, and it can instill public confidence, because not every audit, like these three here are likely to do, well, two that have, one that likely will. Not every audit is going to show you that there was, a lack of accountability or transparency or oversight of processes, that taxpayer money was slipping through the cracks, no one noticed. Not every audit is going to show that. Most audits are going to show you everything's working fine, and the public loves to hear that. We love to hear, hey, Cache County audited itself, or the recorder's office, or the your city did an audit, and here's the result, and it shows that the accountability procedure, the rules are being followed, and we can account for every dollar that was spent and how and when. And that it was all spent in appropriate ways. That is something the public loves to hear. So even if your audits are constantly returning good news, do them regularly. It's unfortunate it's been more than 10 years at least since we've done anything like this. It's unfortunate that Utah State University and former President Cantwell are at the center of this, justifiably at the center of this, I think, especially for a short 18-month tenure. That I wish wasn't the case. I wish it was a different university, but here we are. And, you can't turn a blind eye to this. The public records request the Salt Lake Tribune submitted to originally break this story tracked about $660,000 plus that Elizabeth Cantwell spent as president of the Utah State University in those 18 months. 2 new cars, that golf cart I mentioned, an apartment in Salt Lake, which I kind of get it. You got to lobby for the university. Extensive national travel, brand new furnishings, and that bidet for the president's office area. I'm not saying anything this is wrong. I'm saying it appears there were very few rules followed on tracking and approving any of this. And if it's happening at every university, that's millions of taxpayer dollars. Is that the best use of the money? I don't know. But it's got the legislature asking questions, and that's going to give every university a headache. So that's another reason to not open this can of worms in the first place. We'll see what happens. The audit was announced today. When it gets underway is still a big question. The legislature may have to approve some funding for this. They don't know for sure yet. They're debating it or discussing it to see if there is funding to start it already. And I'm guessing, based on what I could find about the last one that took place over 10 years ago, this will take a few months before we hear anything, but likely before the end of the year, possibly even before the general election for municipal races this year. So that's the rough time frame on this. If you'd like to read more, I've posted a link to both the legislative discussion last week about this and coverage of the announcement today from the Utah System of Higher Education on our Facebook page. And we'll be back with more of For the People on the other side of these headlines with KVN News. We'll feel right.
Well, thank you, Jason. Communities throughout northern Utah are rallying to support the families of 2 fallen police officers with multiple fundraising efforts. Now, Officer Eric Estrada and Sergeant Lee Sorensen were shot and killed while responding to a domestic disturbance back on August 17th. Their deaths have prompted neighbors and local businesses to step in to help raise money for the families. Now, Van Smith, who is a neighbor of Sergeant Sorensen, said that he has already sold over 600 shirts, raising about $12,000, with all the proceeds going to the families. Meanwhile, other restaurants and businesses have also been donating the proceeds of their businesses to the families as well. Of course, the public viewings for Officer Estrada and Sergeant Sorensen began earlier this afternoon at Bear River High School and will continue until 7 o'clock tonight. The funeral services will be tomorrow and Friday and will be broadcast live here on KVNU. In other news, University of Utah campus police said they responded to reports of what was originally thought to be a gunshot at the Marriott Library on campus, but officials later determined the reports were unfounded. Now, a university spokesperson said that the noise was simply a loud sound that was mistaken for a gunshot, and the incident was not considered to be a hoax or a swatting call. And as many Utahns start planning their holiday getaways, cybersecurity experts are warning travelers to stay alert when protecting their personal information. Now, a recent poll found that 75% of U.S. adults are concerned about privacy while traveling, yet 7 in 10 still take risks by using public Wi-Fi to check emails, access bank accounts, or shop online without proper protection. Now, to stay safe, experts advise using strong, unique passwords and enabling two-factor authentication. They also recommend avoiding the sharing of personal information on unsecured networks and using a virtual private network or VPN for an extra layer of online protection. And a man has now been charged with first-degree murder in connection with the death of Salvador Pedraza, a man who went missing from West Wendover and later was found dead in Tooele County. Now, recently unsealed charging documents identified Jeffrey Goldsboro as the prime suspect. According to investigators, Pedraza, who had left his home back on June 20th, was later found shot to death on July 10th. Now, investigators said they located Pedraza's vehicle and, based on the timeline, believe that Goldsboro was driving it. Now, a fire assistant chief had encountered Goldsboro walking near where Pedraza's vehicle was found, and the suspect reportedly talked about carjacking someone to get to Evanston, Wyoming. Now, according to charging documents, tire tracks found near Pedraza's body matched the tires on Goldsboro's truck. Investigators also noted that Goldsboro's cell phone was shut off around the time Pedraza disappeared. Now, Goldsboro had his initial court appearance earlier this month and is being held without bail. Well, some more rain coming this morning, and we do still have a chance of some scattered thunderstorms possible for later tonight. As temperatures have been in the low 70s today, tonight will drop into the mid to low 50s, and then tomorrow, mainly just cloudy skies with some sunshine breaking through as temperatures will be back into the mid to high 70s. And weather this hour brought to you by Cardall's Insulation. They can take care of your home, garage, attic, anywhere. It's Cardall's Insulation. Give them a call today at 755-5012. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News headlines.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Michelle Franzen. A Minneapolis community is in shock after a mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic School, killing 2 students and injuring 17 others. Police identifying the gunman as 23-year-old Robin Westman and say they believe he acted alone. Now they're looking into a post on YouTube before the shooting. Police Chief Brian O'Hara.
This manifesto appeared to show him at the scene and included some disturbing writings.
Some students recounting the harrowing moments when gunfire rang out during Mass to mark the start of the new year. Weston, a 5th grader, told ABC TV station KSTP what happened.
My friend got hit in the back.
Did he go to the hospital?
Yeah, he went to the hospital.
What went through your mind when you saw that?
I was super scared for him. I was like 2 seats away from the stained glass windows. So the shots were right next to me.
The FBI now investigating the shooting as domestic terrorism and a hate crime against Catholics. This is ABC News.
Summer has been rough with insects taking over. Grasshoppers have come in like a wrecking ball, eating our gardens, bushes, and flower beds. Logan Extermination can help with a spray and bait treatment that will help eradicate those hoppers. Earwigs and wasps are also starting to make their mark, while spiders are letting us know that winter is near and they're already trying to move inside. Call Logan Extermination today to schedule your insect treatment and protect your home and property. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
Bringing Wall Street to Main Street. From your local experts in downtown Logan, this is the Adams Wealth Advisors Market Report.
Hi, this is Ty with Adams Wealth Advisors. Stocks closed higher on Wednesday as attention centered on NVIDIA's earnings call, with the tech giant standing as the world's largest company by market capitalization and a key driver of market sentiment. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 147 points to close at 45,565. The Nasdaq advanced 0.17% to 23,566, while the S&P 500 gained 0.24% to end at 6,481. Sector performance reflected a broad-based rally, with most areas advancing. Only healthcare and industrials posted slight declines. Utah-based companies continued to shine, with several names posting strong gains. Notably, Domo Incorporated surged 9.06%, marking a standout performance for the day. In fixed income, U.S. Treasury yields eased. The 5-year yield fell 4 basis points to 3.7%, and the 10-year yield ticked down 2 basis points to 4.24%, helping to support bond prices. After the close, NVIDIA reported earnings that exceeded estimates, but shares slipped in post-market trading. The market reaction was tied to slightly softer than expected data center revenue and a tempered outlook, fueling concern over whether the AI growth story may be slowing. While the revenue forecast was in line with consensus, expectations had been running higher given AI's central role in driving U.S. equity market gains, particularly as earnings outside the AI space have been weighed down by higher interest rates. Looking ahead, investors will turn their attention to upcoming economic reports, including weekly jobless claims, the first revision of Q2 GDP, and pending home sales.
That's your update from Adams Wealth Advisors, guiding your financial future one day at a time. For personalized help planning yours, reach out to us at 435-752-1702. See you soon, Cache Valley. Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com.
My name is Rob Phelps, and I work with the hospice team at the Sunshine Terrace Foundation. When people ask what I do for a living, I tell them I work in hospice, helping individuals and their families navigate one of the most difficult and vulnerable times of life. This year, we thank you for recognizing Sunshine Hospice as your gold-winning hospice in the best of Northern Utah. But the real rewards are helping your loved ones experience a more comfortable, peaceful, and dignified end-of-life journey. To learn more, visit sunshineterrace.org.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Center for Disease Control U.S. Population Report also out today. This is the births versus deaths report, as it's usually referred to. And it shows some interesting trends. They do this report as often as they can. Well, they collect data constantly on this, but it's, okay, the technical, it's not the births versus deaths report, but that's what people joke about calling it. It's actually called the National Vital Statistics Report. It was released this morning, and they do these on a somewhat irregular interval, but sometimes it's 2-3 years between reports. This was the biggest time frame that they included in a single report, though, because the goal of this report, which actually they actually started collecting data for this back in the last census in 2020. And so they've been working on this for a while, but they collect demographic and population data in 2020, and then they collect basically from county health departments, state health departments, other quasi-government health-related entities that also help track this kind of thing. And they just look at all available data on births and deaths, and then they contrast that with demographic data on where people are living, where people are moving to, whether it's a rural area or an urban area, and then they put this National Vital Statistics report together. And what the report says is from the time frame of 2010 to the end of 2023, that's the time frame that they had full data to work with, U.S. births are down 10% over that 13-year period. Now, one thing to keep in mind is it wasn't a consistent 10% decline over that 13-year period. There were, if you look at the actual charts in the report, there are these spikes and dips where, there was a year, I don't know what was going on in 2018. Maybe it was all the Marvel movies coming out or something, and people were just feeling like starting families, but births skyrocketed in mid-2018 into the first few months of 2019. And then kind of dip back down. So it's not a consistent downward trend, but overall, births, 2023 birth rate compared to 2010, a 10% decline. The death rate increased 25%, including one of the biggest jumps between 2019, the end of 2019. Remember, the year started out like the end of 2018 with a very high birth rate. 2019, though, wrapped up with a very high death rate, 19% increase from 2019 to 2020. You don't have to be a scientist to figure out what happened there, right? It was the COVID-19 pandemic and those first, 10 months of 2020 being the most deadly with those, again, images. I'll never get these out of my brain. Those images of the refrigerated trucks sitting behind hospitals full of cadavers, of bodies. So that's the explanation for that. But there were other peaks and dips in the death rate throughout that too, that aren't explained really by any big news event. So this isn't, again, a consistent upward trend of death rates to the 25% increase we see in 2020 compared to 2023 compared to 2010, nor is it a consistent downward slope to a 10% decline in birth rate between 2023 and going back to 2010. There are peaks and valleys throughout, but in the end, this is how the 13-year snapshot they took breaks down. So what else did they find about this that might be indicative of what might be behind this? I don't know. The easiest guess, it comes in another set of data included in the National Vital Statistics Report, in the U.S. median age is generally getting older. And what that says, the report explains this, is that the birth rate. So why, the first question is, why is the increase in the death rate 15% higher than the decrease in birth rate? 25% increase total in 13 years, 2010 to 2023 again, and a 10% decline in birth rate nationwide. And the easiest and most obvious explanation for that is the population, even though the birth rate is only decreased by 10%, 2010 to 2023, that combined with the fact that the nation's population was generally older even before 2010, the death rate goes up as people age and pass away. They're doing so because of the average age in the United States, the median age, they call it, being a bit higher in 2023 than it was in 2010. That kind of explains it. Now, that's caused by the decline in birth rate, of course, and because of this decline in birth rate, we might actually see the median age go up again when they have our new report out next year in a couple of years. So, by the way, the median age increase was about 2 years. In 2010, the median age of a United States resident was 37, and in 2023, the median age was 39. So not a huge increase, but enough to kind of indicate that might be, if that's happening, those above the age of 39, and the birth rate is kicking in mostly for the generations below the age of 39, that explains why there's such a gap between the decrease in birth rate and the much larger increase in deaths. There were, of course, racial and location differences that were pretty obvious in the report. The report explains that births and deaths by race, so looking at Black Americans and white Americans, the decline in births was exactly the same over that 13-year period, 17% decline. So much higher than the national average, but the same decline. But the death rate for Black Americans rose at almost double the rate of the increase in death rate for white Americans. The increase for white Americans, the death rate of white Americans 2010 to 23 exactly matched the birth rate, 17%, holding steady there. The increase in deaths between 2010 and 2023 for Black Americans was 36%. So more than double, 2% more than double the decline in birth rate. Driving the numbers in general, largely, again, all this can be explained by an aging U.S. population and a steady but small each year decline in birth rate. And, of course, older people die at higher rates than younger people, and the median age has increased every year since 2010 by a bit, jumping a full 2 years in the 13 years between 2010 and 2023. The report notes its own limitations. They don't have enough data to really look into any changes in the average age that a reproductive age female, as they say as scientists, I know it sounds weird, that can give birth having a child. They don't have that kind of data to really build a a map in this report. But they do note that there are significant trends that they've seen, and one of those trends is that young women generally considered of prime reproductive age are waiting longer to have children than any generation before. We could do a whole show speculating on what the causes of that might be, but that seems to be one of the most obvious trends in at least one of the contributing factors to the decline in birth rate between 2010 and 2023. And what that also says is that if those young women are just holding off, they're not foregoing having children entirely at a higher rate, maybe they're just holding off 5 more years, 6 more years, whatever, some random number of years, then when we look back on this in a few years, we might see that things have equalized a bit more. But again, the report, this snapshot as of today put out by the CDC shows that the birth rate in the United States increased 25% and the birth rate declined 10%. Neither one of those are really things you want to see, I guess. But the reasons, it gets a little murky on that, and it could be a lot of different factors. One last thing to note, it is actually safer at this point to live in an urban area. Death rate was higher in rural areas, but birth rate was also higher in rural areas. So make of that what you will. Urban areas, the birth rate kind of held steady compared to rural areas over that 13-year period, but the death rate didn't increase as much in urban areas as we saw in the rural areas. One bit of speculation I saw on this, and I don't make sense to me. I don't have any reason or any data that I've seen or reports I've seen to confirm this, but I did see some speculation from a doctor online as this report was published today saying, that could actually be the opioid epidemic, which was, roughly hit its worst in this same time frame, the early years of this 13-year snapshot they took at the CDC, and it hit rural areas harder. So that could explain some of the much more increased death rate in rural areas than urban areas over the last, the 13 years between 2010 and 2023. If you want to read the whole report and see some of these very colorful and interesting visualizations in the report yourself, you can just do a simple Google search for the National Vital Statistics Report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or follow the link, which is a PDF link. It will download immediately when you click on it, that I've posted on our Facebook page. And we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Fatigue, headaches, weight gain, hair loss, insomnia, anxiety, intestinal issues, joint pain. Do you suffer from consistent symptoms like these, and no matter how many doctors you see, things still don't improve? Whether you have a thyroid problem, an autoimmune issue, or chronic symptoms, we can help. We do complex medical testing and blood work to find the mechanisms driving your symptoms. And then we create a plan to improve each one while we teach you the tools to stay on top of your health. We've been helping patients just like you for almost 14 years now. We see patients from all over the world, and we have an office in St. George, Logan, Salt Lake, Farmington, and Springville. You aren't crazy, you aren't lazy. It's not just because you're getting older, and these symptoms are not normal. No matter what symptoms you have, you shouldn't feel this way, and we can help. Don't accept Band-Aid answers.
Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER.
Call Red River today.
For 100 years, the Murdoch family has served Utah's automotive needs. It's a legacy we're honored to carry forward. And as the 4th generation, we'll continue that tradition at Murdoch Chevrolet. During our 100th anniversary sale, take up to $9,500 off a new Silverado 1500 plus 3 years maintenance plan, 2 ski passes, and 1 month of gas. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Chevrolet in Logan and Woods Cross and online at murdochchev.com. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Call 888-391-6083 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 9/2/25.
Don't let a breakdown leave you stranded in this brutal summer heat. AMCO Transmissions can fix it before it fails. Transmissions, AC, brakes, the works. Their expert techs will keep you cool, safe, and back on the road fast. Don't wait till it's too late. Drive into AMCO today and beat the heat before it beats your car. 75 East, 2000 North, or call 752-1940. AMCO, AA MCO.
Wow. This is a great question from a listener. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to the question, but Darren, we will find out for you. Darren says, I'm an older guy. I don't get out as much, and I need some help, preferably this very next spring, with some weed abatement in a field I own, and I can't find out if the county still does that. Great question. I will do some digging for you, Darren, and stay tuned. In fact, just so you know, I'll find your answer, and I'll start tomorrow's show with that before we get to our discussion with Charlie Schill and the For the People Theater Hour. So does the county still have its own? It used to be able to pay the county, I don't know, I think it was like $40, $50, something like that, and they come out and spray for Canadian ragweed and things like that if you had some pasture land. I don't know if they still do that. I will find out. I know there are services like that, sometimes through the city, sometimes through USU Extension even, that have existed here and there over the years, but I don't know if the county still does it. I will find out, and Darren, be sure to be tuned in tomorrow at 4:10, and I'll have an answer for you. So happy to do some digging on that, and now you've got me curious as well, so we'll get to the bottom of it. Coming up in hour two, an update of sorts from something called the Cache County Form of Government Committee. They've met a couple of times. We talked about the last one and some of the data presented on costs of different forms of county government. We know as Cache Valley grows that eventually we're going to hit a point where we've got to make some decisions on how the county government is structured. What's the cheapest, the most effective? Well, that's what this committee is all about, researching. They're inviting the public to get involved in this, begging, in fact. Some upcoming meetings, some additional research to talk about, and more. We'll kick it all off in hour two of today's show here on KVNU Logan right after this.